to the Gyrl podcast. I'm Kyra Mitchell-Lewis. Thank you all for joining. Hope everyone is doing well out there. I hope you are having a great week. It is February, everyone. Like, my goodness, we're already into February. So I do feel like January was a blink. Felt like really fast. I don't know about you, but I felt like it was January 1st, and then all of a sudden it was January 24th because I had to travel last month for work, and then it was the end of the month. And now we're in February, and I am just thinking in February, okay, February is a lot of things, right? It's my birth month, so my birthday is this month. It's Valentine's, it's Black History Month, and it's 28 days, and it feels really, really short. It is the shortest month of the year, but man, it goes by really quickly. So I'm just hoping that I'm not going to blink and it's going to be March. And also too, it's like the end of winter. You know, if you live in the South, I live in Georgia, in Atlanta, and you know, by the time March rolls around, you know, spring will come and we'll have about like 1 to 3 weeks of spring, and then it'll be hot. So not sure that I'm ready for that just yet. But I will get there. And I will definitely am just trying to enjoy all the moments. You know, a theme for me this year is around simplistic joy, and just like trying to simplify things in my life. So if something is too hard, or something is like really like I'm having to work, don't get me wrong, totally fine with like working hard, always work hard, but in just little things, like if I'm having to work like really hard to make something happen that feels like maybe I don't need for this thing, maybe this is not the thing, like being able to step away from things, but then just also like in every aspect of my life, I am like working to clean my closet space and basically all the spaces in my house, in my bedroom where there are clothes. A couple of weeks ago, I walked into my closet after traveling, and I just thought like, I just really can't live like this anymore. This is just too much. Like, it feels like the walls are closing in. And I share this closet with my husband, and his side my side is actually like extended over into his side. So I feel slightly bad about that, because it's like my stuff is everywhere, and it's just really at a place to where I just am like, I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I'm going through a process of like purging stuff for donation, which I like to do quarterly anyway. So this is a good time to start getting my stuff ready for this quarter, and also just getting rid of some of the things that I don't need. I mean, I work remote, so I don't have to wear like full outfits every day. So I'm going to definitely like purge a lot of the clothes that are just in my closet, because I usually have like a season. Like if I didn't wear it this season, and then we come back around to that season again, and I haven't worn it, then it's time for me to let it go. So anyway, probably more than you want to know about my closet, but you know, that's what's going on with Kyra, is that she's trying to clean. She's trying to clean, and she's trying to enjoy February. All right, but on to the reason why you're here today. Got a new episode today for you. I'll be joined in a few minutes by business mindset coach, certified pediatric chiropractor, 3-time author, podcaster, and speaker, Dr. Vic Manzo. So we'll talk about discovering life on your own terms, how to live the life that you want, you know, all those good things. So just like how my mindset, I'm taking that approach of simplicity, we will tell you some tips and some tools that you can use to do the same, so that we make 2023 a great year for you. So stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. All right. So I'm so excited to welcome Dr. Vic into the Glow Up Girl podcast. So welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. Well, why don't you get started by telling the audience listening and watching out there a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I originally was a chiropractor. I've been a chiropractor for the last 12 years. And one of the things around my backstory, coming out of chiropractic school, I was the guy I wanted to be successful. I come from a family of blue collar, financial scarcity, all that stuff. I was tired of seeing that growing up. And so when my journey led me to be a chiropractor, it was one of those things where I was like, I need to be successful. It wasn't like I wanted to. It was more of like, I need to be successful. I don't want to go back to what I experienced.
Right.
And I studied all the business advice I could possibly get my hands on. I was studying chiropractors and all the successful ones I had access to while I was in school. And when I came out, first 5 years, I hit my financial peak, but I was burned out. I was burned out every 4 to 6 months. I was exhausted, fatigued, unsatisfied, unfulfilled. It didn't make sense to me from being what I love to do, being a chiropractor, the lives I was changing and so much more. I couldn't understand why I was still burned out. Because I was doing everything the business advice told you: grind, hustle, I was reading 80 to 120 books a year. I didn't listen to music, and I love listening to music. And it was one of those things I was like, I'm just going to listen to podcasts. I'm going to watch videos. And I was like, I'm doing this all backwards. And when I got to that point, I almost thought about leaving the profession. It was very disheartening for me, especially someone like myself who's very purposeful in what I do. I sat there and I was like, talking to my wife. She worked in the office with me. She ran everything. I was just a doctor. She was all the titles. And so long story short, I told her, I'm like, I'm thinking about leaving. I don't know. I don't know if I want to continue this. It's an uphill battle. It's a grind. I didn't expect it to be this way. I don't mind hard work. I grew up on physical labor, but I was like, there's got to be something different here. And we decided to change the office around. We took a 40% hit on purpose. And one of the things we did is I started to apply principles that I learned early on when outside of chiropractic school. I studied energy healing and quantum and different things on that element. And it taught me quantum physics. It taught me consciousness. It taught me universal laws. All this whole world I didn't expect to learn because I was trying to just learn the depths of healing. So I started to apply that with mindset, neurolinguistic programming, and all these other things. And I said, we're going to choose our success. We're going to choose what we want to serve, and we're not going to have to do anything except just continue to do what we do, and everything's going to align. A little over a year later, we were back at our financial peak. I was working 50% less. Within the first 6 months of our change, I wanted to focus more on pediatrics. I'm a certified pediatric chiropractor. So we went from 5% pediatric patient volume, which is, if you look at all my patients that I had in my office, only 5% were between the ages 0 and 17. In 6 months, without doing anything, we went from 5 to 48%. I started to look and go, well, I have something here. I got to look at this a little bit. And I was like, you know what? I want to, about 6 months later, I told my wife, I think I want to get into coaching. Entrepreneurs need this. They grind too much. They hustle too much. They're burnt out. They go to create a business, and then end up they're handcuffed to their business, and it's just like another job. They don't have the freedom they want. And it's because of what's being taught in the business world and everything. And I was like, don't get me wrong, there's great tools, but the thing is like, they need to learn these principles of what I've done in my own life to show that it worked. And so 2018, I started doing coaching on the side. It was like a little side hustle. And then just December 2021, my wife and I, we moved from Chicago to Knoxville, Tennessee. We couldn't sell the office just because of the climate of COVID and people, chiropractors leaving Illinois. So we decided to leave, just walk away from it. And then I went full-time into coaching last year.
Awesome. First of all, thank you so much for just the transparency of your journey, because it's so awesome to hear, because I think what you're saying is what so many entrepreneurs experience, especially people who are like, they're working like you had a full-time practice and then you decide to do coaching. And a lot of people have full-time jobs, and they're trying to start what feels like purpose and passion for them. But it often turns out feeling like this like like you said, this feeling of burnout and overwhelmed because you're putting, this whole everything that we hear in the world about like hustle culture and grind, and you've got to be working 24 hours. And if you're not doing it, who's going to do it? And so I really love this. I think everything that I hear from you, it goes back to like mindset. It's yes. It's very much about this mindset. I feel like I wrote down something when you were talking. It was like you were pivoting into your purpose and you were open to that. And you didn't I love people who can pivot quickly and just figure out this isn't working. So let's do what makes sense. So I applaud you and your wife, because I know she is a partner to you in this journey. And so kudos and thank you so much for just sharing that.
No, thanks for that. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, we had a very successful practice, and it's one of the, people, when we were telling them we're going to leave it, we're going to move. They're like, what are you doing? You built this up. You have an impact in the community. And I always share this. I'm like, my wife and I, when we talked about this, when initially we're looking at that, I started to look at myself and go, we've made a huge impact. I fulfilled this vision, but I feel like there's more that I'm destined to do. And I don't mean that from an egotistical standpoint, because sometimes you can hear like, oh, I got more to do for the world and all this. And so it's not that. So it's one of those things where it comes to that process of being able to be like, no, I'm set for more. And what is that? Mm-hmm. And the coaching just came up, right? It just started to be in that realm to where it was like, this just felt right. And you'll hear me, I always share my message about feeling, and I teach my clients this, but it's that it just felt right to do. And since we've done it, it was we took a huge financial hit because, again, chiropractic was the main bulk. I was just doing this as a side hustle, but at the same token, it's been so rewarding to see the transformations that I'm doing now at a different level, and to have that reach that I'm doing. You're going after something, but it's well worth it, because at the end of the day, my wife and I kind of live this way. It's like, if we didn't make the choice to do all this, the question we asked ourselves is, would we have regret? Will we look back at our life and go, man, we should have, I wish we just did that just to see, just to see, was it really worth it? And I looked at her and I said, that's not how we live. If we feel like this is what we need to do, we do it. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. But if it does work out, hey, guess what? There's something more glorious on the other side of that we're going to find out.
Awesome. Love that. So you saying that, okay, sort of like transitions us to this question of thinking about your thoughts, right? And why do we need to focus on, the thoughts that we give power to? Because at some moments, right, you're doing things, you're like winning, it feels good, and you're like, I got to keep going. And of course, like just this morning, this is my honest, transparent moment. This morning, I got up. I had a tough week at the corporate job, and then stepping into, the weekend job of Glow Up Gyrl. And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, oh man, like it feels like I'm giving so much all the time, and and I'm just like, okay, how long do I give so much? So I think the conversation that I'm having with you is very timely for me today. I know my audience will take away, but I love when I personally connect to a story and words that someone is saying, because how important are those thoughts? Because even for myself, I just thought about it today. I was like, girl, dust yourself off and turn it around.
I love that. No, I love that. Yeah, you're not alone in this at all either. I know a lot of clients, the same thing. When am I going to get to that point? When's this going to be this way? First off, I'll take a little back step and bring a little science to this, right? So we have 50 to 70,000 thoughts on average per day. Now, not all of them are negative, but not all of them are positive either. We know that from a thought has actually a frequency, a vibrational frequency. So just to kind of, what does that all mean? Well, they've done studies with water, and you could put the thought of love, thinking of love and that emotion, and they flash freeze it, and it has a certain structure that comes out, very hexagonal, crystallized form. It means it's a very high vibrational frequency. And they can do the same thing with hate. And you could send hate and low vibrational thoughts. She kept sending it to the water. They freeze it, and it's chaotic, no hexagonal form, very little to no crystallization. So what does that mean? Well, thoughts have a vibrational frequency. Coming from the health world, I know also that one negative thought can lower your immune system. So the mind-body connection is very, very real, very true. So what's that all mean to you in your life and where you're going? Well, there's a couple things here. One, focus. What are we giving energy to? What thoughts are we allowing to give our energy to? Because let's face it, 50 to 70,000 thoughts, a lot. I don't even know what that comes up to. If I even did 30, I don't even know what that is. It's like 10,000. I'm not even going to try. So anyhow, I think it's like that. My mind wants to go figure it out. I'm like, I'm not even going there. But long story short, when you think about that for a second, it's you get to choose every day, starting with that. What thoughts am I going to give my attention to? Because what you end up doing every time is when you put your attention and focus on a thought, you're giving it power. And you have to understand your source energy. You can call that soul, intelligence. The label doesn't matter. The key thing you want to understand is that when I focus on something, wherever mind goes, that's going to expand. You give life to that. So when we look at things from a perspective of, when's things going to happen, what the time is, this and that, anytime we have constructs of time, that's your ego mind telling you something. And that's your past conditioning. Now I'm getting a little into subconscious. It's going to go out there, but it's one of the things, just to make it more simple, is that anytime we're like saying we need to be at a certain point, we have some belief system that says it should have already happened. Now, it could be someone from your past. It could be like growing up as a kid. Oh, it should have been at this long, or maybe you saw a parent do that, or they had an argument and maybe the one was trying to do something and someone else is like, yeah, no, you should have been here by now. If not, we're moving on and we're doing something different. And then they did. And you took that in, even though you're like, I don't even think I did that. Or you just think in the business world that, you see, especially in social media in today's world, there's so many successful people. It blows my mind. Go scroll and see. I have people I follow and they're like, everyone's all blowing it up. Like they have 6-figure businesses or 7 figures. And I'm just sitting there going, is it really, what's under the radar? And I'm not saying they're not, but you can get caught up in that trap. And then what happens is, and again, going back to a belief, if you have a low self-worth or have something like that, you're going to start judging yourself based on what those metrics are, especially if you're in the same industry, especially if you're on the same age, and especially if you've been doing it for about the same amount of time. Because then you're like, what's wrong with me? I know this far too well. I grew up in sport. When I was playing sports, I only judged how good I was in a sport based on the best people that were out there. And I compared myself to them. I made that mistake in business because that's the worst thing to do. But when you're giving energy, coming back to that thought thing, then when you're giving energy to these thoughts, you want to give energy that's aligned to who you want to become, your future self, right? Because you can find negative, and it's very easy to find negative, but you can also find the positive. It's there too. All things exist. And so when it comes to these thoughts, what are the ones that align to you? Like when you think about, like every day I wake up and I go, God, universe, show me what's good today. Show me what's freaking amazing today. Now, sometimes the amazing, right? This is a program. This is a construct, because how do I define amazing? How do I define good? Right? So you got to be careful with that because you're conditioned in that way. So for me, I just go at the end of the day, I look and go, God, I'm like, thank you so much for the amazing things that you brought to me today. And let's say it was all bad news, like we would quote unquote call it bad news. I'd be sitting there going, you've helped me develop my character. You've helped me work on some of the things I needed to work on. And I just want to thank you for that, because I know tomorrow I'll be just, even if it's 1% stronger, I know I'm going to be that. Now, I'm not always thinking this way, just to be transparent, but because sometimes I'm human too. It's like, man, why am I not getting there? Well, man, this was not good. This is not help where I'm going. But there's times though, but we can change that, because once we allow mind to focus on that positive, or what we consider that align. I don't like to say positive, negative. I just say what aligns to what you want to create, because positive and negative is really a term that you define, not somebody else, because we have to come to realize that we live. This is our world. So how we define it, how we see things. Life has no meaning except what you put on it. So when we focus on these positive thoughts, then in your world, your definition, you're keeping the focus there. And that starts to set a vibe. And that starts to set up emotion. And this starts to send a trend to all of a sudden now you're sending it out there, always focusing on this. When I say sending out, it's kind of like a signal. And what's going to happen over time is you're going to have that signal come back. This is the law of cause and effect. You're sending something out. It's like imagine you're sending like a little, like, I don't know, I'm thinking of so many different things, but I'm like, what one relates to the best? But You're just sending like you're expecting to send a signal out to something like a satellite, let's say, and that signal is going to come back and send it back to you, whatever that is. And so whatever that vibration, whatever that frequency, whatever that essence of it is, if it's negative, you're going to see more negative. If it's positive, you're going to see more positive. And this is where you can start to not only just shift mindset, but shift life. So if you don't mind, I'll tailor it to you then, right? So when we're focusing on time, what you're really focusing on is the scarcity. What you're really focusing on is on the lack. I'm not where I should be right now. When's the breakthrough going to happen? Well, I've been putting in all the work. There's expectations there. Anytime we have expectations, that's from mind, because mind makes things creates resistance, and it makes things more complex. So if you start to notice you have resistance, or you're starting to not get the results, and you're getting these like frustration feelings, these lower vibrational feelings, you're in your mind. And so this is where we have to be like, you know what? I all you can control is where you are now. That's all you can control. And things are going to come in, I call divine timing. There's another term for divine timing is nice, right? It's really called the law of gestation, which means everything in life has a time period. Everything in the physical world does. So a baby takes about 10 months to be born. You look at other elephants and other animals, that there's a time frame. How much time does it take the earth to rotate around the sun? How much, there's all this stuff. So what you want to create and who you want to become, there's a time frame for that. It's coming. The only problem is our mind messes with us and it goes, well, it's not here yet, or look what's happening here, or look at so-and-so. And what that's doing is it's poking and prodding on your limiting beliefs and what you focus on. So I know there's a lot there, but it's really summing that up in a realm of why it's so critical to focus on the thoughts that align with who you want to be and who you want to become.
Now that's all really great stuff. Great advice. I love all that. And I receive all that. I received that. So thank you. I love when God puts a person there, like he put you here today to just give me that, to give it back to me, because sometimes I think you need that, especially when you're in positions of like pouring into other people that way all the time. In all of the roles that I play, like at work, being a leader and a manager, I'm always affirming other people, pouring into them and, saying, yes, it's going to be, great. It's going to be good. You're good. Keep going, keep going. And I think sometimes like when it comes to our own lives, like you said, a lot of times we have these these timetables, even though better. Like I totally know better. I know that God has a plan for me and that it's going to happen. But the human, like you said, we're all like, I'm a human. And sometimes I allow for those things to creep in, that fear of like, oh man, what am I doing this for? Like, what am I doing all this for? Like, what is it for? So I receive that from you. So thank you.
No, go ahead. I'm ready to rock here. So go ahead. I'm ready for the next one. Let's go.
Yes. So now we were talking about a little bit about the body, right? So let's talk about how important it is for to focus on feelings and tapping into your body.
Yeah, we've gotten so far away from it. We don't realize that this body of ours is the most advanced technological system that will ever exist. I was just literally, a friend of mine just shared something about the heart, how we've had it wrong all these years about how the heart works and so forth. It's just fascinating. So I'm like, I love learning new stuff about the body because it just sums up how much we don't know. But we live in a world that is very mind centered, which is we lead by mind all day long, right? Information era. It's all about information, data. And what happens is we don't realize that we have this beautiful inner compass in us. You can call it intuition. You can call it your guidance system. That's what I call it. But it also guides you in a lot of different ways, because when it comes to feelings, there are feelings that are aligned for you at a soul level, that is aligned for your higher good. And it's a higher vibrational feeling like joy, bliss, excitement, these kind of feelings. And there's the opposite of that, which we kind of talked a little bit about with the hate and love experiment. Then there's the hate, or the lower vibration, frustration, anger, resentment, shame, guilt, those kind of things. Those show up in your body in two different ways. So when if I had you just imagine really quick, what is something you really love, really adore, that really just wins your heart over every single time? right?
Right. Yes.
You pay attention to that, see where that shows up in the body. How does it feel? Start to hone in on that feeling, right? And then if I said, think of something you hate or disgust or your pet peeve or whatever, and then see how you feel. And you'll notice that you feel sometimes mostly a little bit heavier. For me, it feels like slime and mud on me. And I'm pointing to my chest and stomach because that's where I feel it. And it's like, I'm like, oh, I just want to like shake that off. I don't like that feeling. When you can master that and know how it shows up, then you can train your mind to say, hey, guess what? Because the mind wants to be in control. So you can say, listen, I'm going to let you control, but here's what the rules are. When I feel this, I take actions here. When I feel that, I don't take actions. How's that sound? And the mind can go, yeah, that's fine. I like it. I'll tell you when it is and when it isn't, because that's what ego is designed to do. And then you start to train that. So when the feeling comes up, whatever it is that you're choosing to do in your life, like for my wife and I to move from Chicago to Knoxville with a very successful business and everything was going well for us, it was the feeling that wasn't leaving us away. Every time we thought about moving, we had a feeling. And the feeling was an agreement. It was a higher vibe. We got excited. It felt grounded and centered. That's how it shows up for me. And same thing for her. And she was just like, I feel like we need to make this move. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know why, but I just know we have to make a change. I've done this moving. I've done this when I was first going into, when I was getting ready to finish up chiropractic school. I was planning on practicing in Italy at one point. And I had a connection with a doc who was going to take me in for a year. I was going to get to learn the area. And I was like, hey, if I like to stay here, then I will. If not, I'll go back home or something. And I'll never forget, April 2009, I had some feeling in my gut told me I had to go home. I don't know why. Don't know. It showed up on a weekend. I'll never forget. And I just said, I don't know why, but I'm going to trust it. I've always trusted this. I'm going forth. I have to go home. And it all led up. I mean, my grandfather passed away a little over a year later. I met my wife a little over a year after that. So I was like, maybe that's what it was. Who knows? You know, you don't really know about how life works until you look backwards. But it's understanding that feeling is going to guide you to what your soul's purpose and what it really wanted to experience. So I may be getting a little spiritual here, but it's one of those things that this is the kind of work I do because I want to really get to that soul level because that's really true fulfillment. And if we don't go there, if we stay headstrong, we're too stuck in this human realm. That where we think like, especially for businesses, right? What's the main thing you have a business? Well, you want to have a business because you have a purpose and you're passionate about something. But at the end of the day, really the business there is to support our lifestyle, right? It's to help us fund and fuel for that. I'm not saying that's your main purpose. And what I teach my clients is that should not be your main purpose. And the more you don't make that the main purpose, the more actually it fills your pockets up. But a lot of times you'll see people and they're talking about how much they make and this and that, how much they're killing it, this and this. And I'm always like, is that really their soul's purpose? Because I really highly doubt from a soul perspective, unless you want to experience just having money, we came here to experience something. And it's more of a feeling. It's that human experience of, I want to, it's like, here's an example. It's like, you can study making brownies all day long, but eventually you have to go to work and make brownies. And it's cultivating that. And what's the experience when you finally figure it out? What does that come? That's the experience we're looking for, that feeling side. So the feelings will guide us in every aspect of our life. And it's knowing how to tap into it. But the feelings also set the tone for your vibration, that essence, your consciousness level. Again, I talked about signal here a little bit, right? Sending that signal out. So when you have a higher vibration, you send a stronger signal to the field or to the universe. And this signal is kind of like a radio frequency tuner, right? So you tune in the station to get to what you want to listen to. So the more you get into a higher vibe, that's the frequency or the radio station that is more aligned to what you want to experience. So let's say if you want like country music, you go like in Chicago, it's 99.5. So you're tuning into that 99.5, sending that signal as strong as you possibly can so that it will come back and you're in alignment and then you'll experience country music. And what's cool about this is you don't have to figure anything out because the universe does it all for you. You see, our mind can only comprehend 0.00000, like 1% of all the knowledge that's out there. We have a very limited perspective as a human. And the key is instead of trying to control ourselves and our future, let's open that up and let the universe figure it out. It can see everything. So all you have to focus is on that vibe, send that strong signal, positive feeling, get to that feeling, get to those emotions. And that's going to respond. Laws of cause and effect. And the less resistance you have, the faster things come. I'm not saying speed's important. You know, it's not what we want to focus on because everybody's different on where they are. But the key is this is the science behind how this stuff can help you achieve that success and what it is, what you want to experience for yourself.
Awesome. Like that. All right, let's talk about one of the areas that I think we as humans will all struggle with, limiting beliefs. And you talked about that, you touched on it a little bit, but what role does it play when you're in every day, when you're just trying to live life on your terms, trying to find joy in your everyday, and how can we become aware and sort of transition ourselves away and change limiting beliefs?
Yeah, it's there. Limiting beliefs are that ceiling. It's going to hold you back. It's a ball and chain that doesn't allow you to experience what it is you really want. And I remember going through this in the second to third year of my business. I was making money. Things were growing. Just personally wasn't meeting the mark, but I was almost doubling a couple times straight in a year for growth startup. That was great. But I remember I was like, when I got to a certain point, I looked at my bank account. I'm like, man, I grew. I'm like, 3x where I was 2 years ago. But I look at my bank account, I have nothing to reflect that. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I said, when I was in my head 2 years ago, I said, if I get to this point, man, the amount of money I'll be making in disposable income per month, what I can do for investments and this and that. I was all excited. Then I got there and it wasn't there. And I'm like, something's wrong. Now, for most people, you'll think, oh, it's an accounting issue. It's this issue. It's that issue. And I was like, no, I'm tracking everything I got. I'm doing the bookkeeping. I'm really good with numbers. And I started to go, you know what? Let's take a step back. I remember limiting beliefs can play a huge role in things. Let me go look and see what's the pattern showing up. And literally all I did was go on a Google search and I said, what's the top 10 limiting beliefs? Right. And here comes a list of 10. And I'm looking at it and I'm reading them and I go, I have about 9 of those. Those are 9 things that I heard growing up, like money doesn't grow on we think money doesn't grow on trees, or money only goes to money, and all these different things. And I was like, wow, okay, well, let's do an experiment. I'm like, let me go ahead and let me start working through these and start changing my limiting beliefs and turn them into empowering beliefs, change my relationship with money. And I started to look at like people who had money. I sent more love to them. I was like, man, good for them. God bless. I'm so happy that they're doing something and they're getting well rewarded for that. I literally started to shift my mind in every aspect. And then all of a sudden, in the next year, 2 years, I'll go 2 years because that's what I calculated that. We almost doubled the next year, which was huge. And then we 50% grew the following year. I didn't do anything different in my office. I didn't do anything different. And what was cool about that is the bank account reflected it this time.
Right.
And I looked and I'm like, and again, it wasn't like it wasn't a system I could have put a system in place and just followed it. But you have to understand limiting beliefs are an energetic control. They set the tone to limit you in some way. And you have to become aware of them. It has to be a pattern that keeps showing up, right? It's something that's just constantly showing up. So like, imagine like in a relationship, you keep attracting a certain type of partner. You may not be aware of it, but there's eventually going to come a point you're going to be like, what the heck's going on? This is like the same arguments I was having in my last relationship. Boom. That should be a red flag right there. That should be like, hold up. I need to look at something. It's not, this is the type of people I attract. No, there's something deeper than that. And you have to look into that. That could be baggage, but most of the time it's limiting beliefs. It's something that you saw at an early age. And the thing is, these beliefs, we come in pure, and I know this sounds bad, but we come in pure, and then adults like kind of tarnish us in a way from who we are as children. And the reason why is because all our beliefs were given to us. We didn't come in with them. I have almost a 7-month-old daughter, and when I look at her, I'm like, she's a pure example of that. Pure joy, love, excitement, all the beautiful things, that we are as naturally as humans. And then it's like my job. I'm always thinking in the back of my head because I know this stuff. I'm like, all right, I am not letting anybody tarnish you. I'm going to work on every little thing. I'm going to try to hold it as much. I mean, I know things are going to happen. It's inevitable. I'm going to have my failures. I'm very well aware, but it's one of those things where, again, it's just coming back to like ourselves and understanding that this is probably stemming somewhere between the age of 0 and 7. And so if you don't have to go back to the source. I have some people when I work with clients, we don't have to, like, they're just so gung-ho moving forward that I'm like, okay, let's just turn it into an empowering belief and let's do the reconditioning of the mind so we can break you out of the pattern and then just hold it. And some people are like that. Some people, like myself, I like to know where the source is so I can heal it. I can go back to my inner child, talk to it, do some of that connection, work through it, be like, hey, little buddy, I know you went through that. I know this is how you took that in, and this is what you think it is. I'm here to tell you as your older self, I'm here to help you and I want to support you and let you know that's not true. Let's work together. Let me love on you. So it's I'll take like, if I know what year it was, I'll take a picture. I'll look at a picture of myself at that year and I'll meditate on it, really get into the energy, and really heal. And it really does help. And this is what helped me with my financial stuff. It helped me in my relationship. It helped me in other areas of my life to break through. And so it's these things will dictate and control you in every aspect of your life unless you turn these things around. So the key thing, and this is what I tell my clients all the time, awareness is everything. You want to look at the patterns that show up in your life often, right? If it's like, I'm doing all this work, but I'm not getting to enough time. I'm just using it because you brought that up. So don't mind me sharing you as an example. It's like, then the question to ask, and this happens a lot with clients I work with, is where's the self-worth? Are you worthy of it? And really looking and seeing if that is, because self-worth is one of the biggest limiting beliefs I see all the time. And it's looking then and saying, well, are you worthy of attracting that now? Do you feel that way? And then what conditioning did you growing up that made you feel that you aren't worthy of those things? And I'm only sharing that because that was my journey. I mean, ever since I had my daughter, I mean, I'm very, very self-reflective, and like having her makes me go back now and look at every aspect of my life. And there's memories coming up that I'll talk to my wife about. And my wife will just be like, I can tell this is what you went through in your life. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it makes sense now. And it makes sense why I'm like this or why I react this way. And oh my God, it makes sense. Yeah. I know this stuff. I've been studying for 12, 13 years, but it's like, there's another layer now I'm going into, right? It's like, man, I thought I went through all this. Why do I have to go? Like, but it's also, here's the thing about vision and talking about thoughts and all this stuff. I've set a vision before we moved a couple of years ago that I was like, I want to get to a certain state energetically to be a certain person, to help serve, but also have a more fulfilled life and a deeper level than I've ever had before. Well, you can't just choose that and have it. Sometimes there's stuff you have to learn from and grow and let go. Yeah. And that's the journey I'm at right now in my life. But it's interesting because it shows up in business. It shows up in other areas. And I didn't realize, again, this is another layer I'm going through. And I'm like, okay, but limiting beliefs can do a whole plethora of that. But again, it's like I said earlier about thoughts. It's what you give power to. You can turn that around and change that belief like this. It's just, you're going to have to work through the brain and change the the synapses and the neuroplasticity and all that stuff to condition it into your brain to be more automatic.
Awesome. Yes. All right. Let's go back. We were talking about, you mentioned subconsciousness, the subconscious mind. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how that holds us back from what we desire. And also, I mean, you've touched on it, but just how reprogramming that subconscious mind.
Yeah, I mean, subconscious limiting beliefs are very similar because the limiting belief is built into the subconscious, right? But subconscious is also just, the things we, our experiences of what we've seen. Again, 0 to 7 is where a lot of it gets conditioned. Yeah. And the subconscious is 95% of how we live our life, because it's 95% of how we're on autopilot, just running on subconscious. An example of how this works, so you kind of understand this, is I want you to tell me the temperature of your left foot. Now, for the listener, you guys or yourself, you weren't thinking of your left foot at all, the temperature, but I bet you some of you were like, what is the temperature? Does it feel warm? Does it feel cold? Where do I think it is? Right? Subconscious was taking care of that. You didn't have to worry about it. Yeah. And if I said, looking at like how your digestive system is or how your heart beats or the oxygen levels in your blood, your subconscious takes care of all that. So it's a beautiful system. But what it's designed is it's looking to find repetitive processes and then build them in and then say, okay, this is it. Now it goes on autopilot. And then you don't have to worry about it. The problem when it comes to the and it's not a problem, it's just how it works. It's a beautiful system. But what happens is like, and this happened to me, if you want to become financially successful, but you have a lot of scarcity stuff in you, you've been conditioned to look at the scarcity, right? You've seen people, maybe you saw people growing up and they took risks and they failed. You heard the stories of your parents maybe saying that, or your friends, or you saw these things happening over and over and over. The more times we get exposed to an experience, the more it's going to get hard-grained into our brain as an automatic process. Once that happens, this is a construct. It's a program. The way I call it that is because it's literally a program. It's going to run the same way over and over and over and over and over again until you change it. And this is not something that's easy. There's many different systems I work with my clients on to do that, to break out of these patterns, break out of these programs. But it's before, again, like anything else, you have to become aware, right? And it's, again, what's showing up in your life. If what's happening financially, I use money as an example. If you're hitting a roadblock every single time, there's something you're programmed in your mind, and it could be most of the time it's a limiting belief that money isn't good or money's not great, or if I get too much money, what happens then? I'm not going to be able to take care of my family or my kids. I'm going to be too busy with that. Like, these are fears, but those are belief systems, right? So they're all constructs. In a belief system, I usually call it a code. It's input, output. Whatever the input is, run the code, output's going to happen. So, man, I want to become financially successful. Well, the code says that in the coding, it says that you have a fear of success because if you have too much money, you can't do this. You're going to lose your health. You've seen people do this, and this is your conditioning. Well, that's the output. It means that's the fear that's going to come from that. And until we change that coding around, you're going to have that same experience, and the subconscious is going to have to keep proving it to you. Your mind's going to have to prove it to you until you start to make the change. So then it becomes, well, how do we change this? Well, one of the easiest ways to do it is your first thought in the morning and your last thought in the evening helps rechange the programming of the mind. So you can do this through writing things out. You can do it in a thought process. You can do it in a visualization. There's many ways. I can go down hundreds of different tools of what you can use, but it's going to be one of those things that's going to help. The second thing is awareness. Being aware as much as you possibly can of that automatic response. And I usually share this as like a bracelet or a rubber band effect. This is not something I've created. Many people have used this, where you either wear like a really rubbery, like I'm looking for one around here. I don't have one, but like a rubbery bracelet that has a little bit of elasticity, or a rubber band. And every time that thought comes or you feel that feeling, because the feelings are going to kind of guide you where the subconscious is, you can snap the rubber band. For some people need that. That's called the pain response. What we're trying to do is elicit a pain response because the brain doesn't, it's always looking for pain or pleasure. That's how it works. That's how it builds memory, and that's how it makes changes. And so snapping for me, that's what I needed. But for some people, knowing just changing a bracelet or rubber band to the other bracelet, constantly going back and forth every time it comes, you're going to get frustrated. Yeah. And that's going to create a pain response. And so the brain's like, okay, we got to figure out how to stop doing that because I'm not having fun with this. Right. And so that's where you can condition to change those habits. And then eventually you'll notice you don't do it as much. And it takes about 3 months. So you got to give yourself time. But once you start to do that, then it becomes started automatic. And then you're like, wow, I don't have to think about that anymore. And now you can continue to move on.
Yeah. Oh, those are great tips. I like that. I definitely like the beginning and the end of the day. Like, I like to wake up with attitude, like just being thankful that I woke up, God. Thank you. And like you said, I think mentioned earlier, at the end of the day, it's like whether it was considered like a great day, like everything happened that was so good, or even if there were things that were like, I wish that wouldn't have happened, but I like to take those as like learning moments and let's see how we can be better the next day.
Yeah, because if you really think about it, everything in life is good. And I know a lot of people say, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, look at all the bad in the world. Look at this. I'm like, no. There's because from the bad comes good. From the bad comes growth. From the pain, from the darkness, you're going to grow in some way, and it's going to mold you to who you want to become. Exactly. So when you really think of it, it's like, that's why I'm like, there's nothing really in my world. I'm like, nothing's really bad. And it's really just good. And you can look at it from that perspective. And when you do that, especially at night, this is one of the great arts of gratitude. Gratitude is a great way of practice, good practice to build into. But when you start to shift that mentality, it allows you to see the smaller things and appreciate the beautiful flow of life. Because let's face it, having no darkness or pain in life is like the earth having no storms. Yeah. It's just not, look, the earth wouldn't survive. Yeah, we need the storms to grow and expand and evolve. So
yes, the evolution. Like that's what I always tell people, especially about like learning. I'm like, well, if you're not learning and evolving, then you shouldn't even be here. Like, why would you want to still like? I couldn't imagine like not learning something like every day. So all there. Okay, tell us about the quantum world.
Yeah, the quantum world, it used to be, at one point it was called the spiritual world, and that was way too woo-woo for a lot of people. But quantum has come around, and quantum physics and quantum mechanics have come around and kind of said, man, what was said like 3, 5, 7,000 years ago, they had it right. They really were in a different plane of existence. But what the quantum world is, it's the invisible world that we can't see, that all the physical world comes from. It's all tied into. So what does that mean? Remember, I talked about energy. I talked about conscious level. I talked about vibe. Well, this is where quantum physics come in, because what they found out, if you take it back to chemistry class and you look at the atom, right? You have the whole proton and neutron, and you have the electrons outside of it. Well, quantum physics goes into the subatomic particles, which are deeper into that aspect. And then when they went to the deepest element that they could, there's this vast amount of space, but they called it quantum. There's like an energy to it. And so what does that mean? Well, if we took gold and we took lead, the only reason why it shows up in the physical realm, in the molecular structure as it is because of the energy of what it's vibrating at in the quantum realm. So when you shift the vibration, it changes everything else. There's a great thing for some people who are going, what the heck's he talking about? I need some visualization with this. You can look up something called cymatics on YouTube. It's called CYMATICS. And what this is they take a vibration plate and they change the frequencies of the vibration, 2000 hertz, 2500, 40, whatever that may be. But they have particles of sand on it. And when they change the frequency, the actual image changes. How the heck does that happen? Right? This is very similar to what I talked about with water. Right. When I said the emotions, those are the emotions and the thoughts were just a frequency. It was a vibration. And then when you froze it, it changed the molecular structure of how water was aligned. So there's no this is not woo-woo stuff. It's very scientifically been proven now. And so what happens is that the work I do, and majority of the work I do with my clients, is how to shift their energy and get their vibe correct. Because when it comes to someone who's not doing well in business versus someone who is doing well in business, it's not about what they're doing. It's all about where they're vibing at, because everything in the physical realm is all based on the law of vibration. And as a human being, our experiences, we can never experience anything that's outside our vibrational frequency. When I was talking about the radio frequency, the tuner, right? Tuning in. Country music in Chicago is 99.5. Well, if I was at 99.7 or 99.3, I'm not getting country music no matter how hard I try, no matter how much I blare that volume, it's not coming, right? But if I tune in right at 99.5, man, music's there. I'm listening. I'm sitting back and enjoying some tunes. So it's one of those things where this is how the energy frequency and honing in to where we are creates the existence of our physical reality. And this is when we come from this place and really come from our mind to understand that and live our life in that way and understand where's my vibe, where's my focus, where's my tension, where's my energy. Then all of a sudden we start to realize that it's not really about doing anything. I'm not saying you have to take action. We live in the physical realm. You have to take action. But what I've learned from in the business world, my experiences, my ups and downs and everything is that majority of business and so forth are all telling us action, 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 action. That's all there is. And they focus at 90% of the time, 80%, sometimes 100. But we have the equation backwards. It should be 10%, maybe 20%. And the rest should be focused on your vibe and your energy. Because you've seen this. I know I have. You can have two people. They had the same amount of experience. They have the same, they doing everything identically the same in business. One thrives, one's struggling. How could that be possible? Oh, it's just luck. One was lucky. There's no such thing as luck. When you understand things from a law of vibration standpoint, based on that, there is no luck. Everything is based on the vibrational frequency of where you are. And so that's where the quantum world comes in and kind of sums up everything at the deepest level for us. And this is universal. I even created a formula on this called the Billionaire Success Formula. I stumbled upon it. It wasn't, because I was trying to explain metaphysical stuff like this. But then I'm like, I got to share physical, and I'm talking to business people, and they're very left brain dominant individuals, but it's all about the physical, forget the metaphysical. So I was like, but I came after about 12, 15 years of my experiences, I started to realize I studied billionaires, and I'm like, oh my God, they live in the quantum. They do quantum. They live in the quantum world all the time. And some of them, I don't think they do, but they do. Like if I study them, I bet you that they are. But majority of them are already there. Like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and all these individuals. They focus on the vibe and they keep it centered no matter what shows up short term. An example I love sharing a lot is Elon Musk in 2019. Model 3 cars, he's having an issue with the battery production, can't keep up, stocks dipping for over the summer, and business world's bashing him like crazy, just like they are now. And it was one of those things where in the interview, and I'm paraphrasing, he was like, they're like, well, how are you going to do? You're struggling, your stock's going down, this and that, you can't get production up. And he's like, all you guys are doing is focusing on my short-term stuff. He's like, we have a long-term vision. We're going to get there. Now, how can that be quantum? How can they be living? How's that quantum thinking? Remember, quantum understands energy. And I'm not going to let the short-term stuff of my life affect me and my energy of who I want to be in the future. Elon Musk, a year later, was the richest man in the world. Right now, he's not the richest man in the world anymore. He lost to over $200 billion in net worth. But I look back and I go, if that guy lives in the quantum, I can almost put all my money on it. He will be, and I'm saying it here. I've said it before. He'll be back there within a year or two because he understands the quantum world and how it plays a role in life and success and so many more.
Awesome. All right. Why don't you tell us about the programs that you offer if anybody's watching or listening and wants to work with you?
Awesome. I appreciate that. I do one-on-one coaching, and I have a free clarity call where you jump on, and basically the whole concept is just to see if I'm the right fit. I get to know about you and if I'm really the person that can help you. And I break that down from there. I have classes that I offer, different ones. Like I talk about mindset and like manifesting things and how to get your mind right. I have a financial abundance class that's all about, again, the energy of mind, beliefs, and how to work through these things, how to shift that, to shift your energy with money so you can start to attract more into your life and so forth. I have some little stuff. I have books I've written. I have I have a free ebook that you can get a hold of. It's called The Mindset Solution. I wrote this because I got tired of COVID came and so many coaches came out into the world. And a lot of them call themselves mindset coaches. And when I started studying them and what they do, it's like a lot of times they're just talking about like mindset. Well, you have to have a growth mindset. You have to shift there. Or your money, you have to have an abundance mindset. That's why you're struggling there. And I'm always like, no, that's the end product. You're not looking at the underneath the hood of what's going on and why they choose that mindset. And again, we shared a lot of these principles today, but I share in the book limiting beliefs and how that person will focus on one versus the other, because not all of us have growth mindsets. I don't. There's some that I have to work on where it's more fixed or maybe not as optimistic and so forth. But you can find all that stuff on my website. I have a podcast too you can follow up on. I've only done a few. I think I'm up to 442 right now in episodes. So it's just a couple you can tune into. But that's how you can get a hold of me.
And what's your website?
EmpowerYourReality.com.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So before I let you go, we're going to do 3 things with Dr. Vic. I'm going to ask you 3 questions, just helps the audience get to know you a little bit better. So one is sort of a double question. How do you start and end the day?
Oh, that's a long one. Self-care. It's all about me in the morning. Mindset. I do my meditation, my breath work. I have a cold plunge where I have water at like 50 degrees and just go in there, and it's good for health benefit, more mental than anything. Workout. So I take care of me first thing in the morning before anything else. And then after that, I get a good meal in and I say, okay, let's start the day. I get a little time, then I got to take, then I hang out with my wife in the morning, with my daughter in the morning, and then get on going. At the end, it's a 30-minute ritual where I start to slow down. I start to reflect on the day. I listen to some music, it's calming music with brainwave therapy and stuff to just get my mind to calm. You can tell I talk a little fast, so my mind's out. I'm like revving for most of the day. But I get into a gratitude practice. What was great today? I said the first question I ask is, God, show me something great today. Show me what's good today. And at the end of the day, I go and I say, God, thanks for showing what's good today. And I go into a place to find the good. And even though my mind may be like, maybe I didn't get that client I signed. It's like, you know what, man, that was really bothersome. But you know what, God, thanks for bringing that up. There's something I'm not aware of that I need to work on. Or, I need to learn something there. And maybe I don't have the solution at the time, but I'm just grateful for it. But that's kind of the morning and evening practices that I do.
I like it. Number 2, what's one goal or intention you've set for yourself this year?
I love it. I have 2 actually.
Okay.
A new book, which I'm going to be working on shortly. The second one's a bigger one. It's something I've been wanting to do, and it's an online consciousness school because I work with business owners for the most part right now. But I do I want to start helping the public out, and I always had a vision of an online consciousness school where people can come and learn what I've been kind of sharing here, but in a whole vast perspective, and break it down in different elements, and how to really, the main purpose is just to help people take their power back so they can get back to choosing and not be controlled or influenced in what we see in the world today, and how to help them with that process.
Awesome. And the last question, what is a day off? What does it look like for you?
Being with my family and whatever my family wants to do. It's just being with them, being with my daughter, being with my wife, cooking. I love to cook. I cook every day as it is, but I do some baking. And whenever I do find time, if I can get away, because now with a little one around, I've lost a little bit of some extra free time. It's, I like doing woodworking stuff and just, I'm not no expert in any way, shape or form, but I love building things when I can get a chance to, or work on a little project here and there whenever I get a chance to.
Awesome. I love that. All right. So first of all, I just want to thank you for joining today, for all the insights. I mean, this has been so fabulous for me. It is what I love to bring guests on who are transparent, who offer like real tips, solutions, and you have done that for us today. So first, thank you so much. And then second, I'm going to ask you to leave the audience with 3 things you'd like them to take away from this conversation today.
Oh, I love it. Number one, this is not easy, and I've kind of shared this already about getting out of your mind, but really look into your future, who you want to become, and let feelings arise from that, like feeling great, get excited, and see it as a way that it's going to happen regardless. Like it's already coming for you. I need you get into that mindset. You're going to have an inner critic come in, but get into that mindset first and foremost. So get into the feelings. Second is if you have a business and so forth, and sometimes we're always trying to figure out how this is going to work out or how that, even in personal life, how's the relationship going to get better? Forget the hows. That's not your responsibility. We get so hooked on those. We've been so conditioned to be that way. Instead, just focus on what is the feeling, the experience you want to have in that process. How does that look like? What does it look like? Get really crystal clear. So write out who's your future self that you want to be. What is that person? How do they think? How do they be? How do they act? How do they respond? And so forth. And then the third thing is, I'll share a little tip on how to read. One of the things is you always want to, when it comes to an energy thing, it's all based on our nervous system. So how do you reset your energy? How do you reset your field, right? So I told you a little bit about my morning ritual. There's a reason why I do all those things, because it sets me into the right place. Breath work. You have to breathe as it is. There's so many different types of breath works out there. You can Google on YouTube. There's Wim Hof, there's Soma, there's holotropic. I can list a whole long list of them. They all work, but practice one daily. I promise you in about 1 to 2 months, it's going to change your life. And it's amazing when I have my clients go, I can't believe things are working out in the way they do. It's because it helps them recenter their energy and it recenters their nervous system so they can be better at being more of a human. And what I mean by human is higher center consciousness that most animals in the mammalian world don't have, instead of being more reactive like we are in today's society.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Those were awesome. All right. Well, thank you again. It has been so great having you. You are welcome to come back and share more in the future.
Thank you for having me. This was really a fun process. I love the questions and you're just a great host. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. Thanks again to Dr. Vic for joining the show today. If you want to learn more about him, check out the links in the show notes. If you'd like to learn more about Glow Up Girl, visit glowupgirl.com. You can check out past podcast episodes. You can sign up to be a guest on the show, grab our social links, and so much more. Hope you're also checking out our career-focused podcast episodes as well. I share my personal experiences from my career journey. These episodes are great for anyone who is just looking to understand, their strengths, understand some tips and get some tips. Talk about a tongue twister. Get tips and tricks for ways that you can elevate in your career. We talk about it all. We talk about getting promoted. We talk about what happens when you don't get promoted. We talk about when is it time to look for a new job, all those things. And I share my personal experience. It's my personal experience. So that's all that I know and all that I can share. But I hope that, it is helpful for any of you out there who are listening. It's definitely been great to record those episodes. I really like being able to help people, definitely as it relates to figuring out what you want to do in your career, because as you always hear me say, being in a career is not being in a job. It should feel like a career. It should feel like there is opportunity for you, that there is purpose, and that you feel passionate about showing up and doing it every day. So you can listen to all those episodes as well as the interview episodes on your favorite podcast platform, or you can head over to our YouTube there and you can see the video as well. So also, if you're listening on a platform that allows you to leave a review, I'd love it if you would leave a review for me. Also, be sure you share the podcast with your family and friends. And also subscribe wherever you can, and also subscribe to our YouTube page. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you all next week. I appreciate your support so much. And until then, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.